Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Hardcore Survival Guide. And yes, I dug myself a 2-block deep hole because I was worried I was going to look at an Enderman while doing my intro. We are back here in the end, and as you can see in the distance we have our End City ship. If you didn't see the last episode, we have just crossed the End Void using a honey block flying machine, which is still down there somewhere. I did not bother to retrieve any of it. We are heading towards this city, which looks like a pretty large one and hopefully connected by a landmass, so we don't have to do too much bridging. If we did need to bridge anywhere, I brought some wood with me, and honestly, I see a lot of people bridging around the end with cobblestone blocks when they want to traverse this treacherous landscape, but personally I prefer bringing wood with me because you can break one oak log down into 4 oak planks, and from there you can turn it into slabs, and it means you basically brought 6 times the amount of material that is covered in a single stack of logs, so it's a very useful thing to know. It looks like this End City is weirdly floating. I worry that has... Oh no, it hasn't quite generated out over the void, although maybe the back door might be better to use. Just kidding, it doesn't have a back door, but something tells me the landscape here is very precarious for entering via the front. We have a couple of shulkers over there on the front door, but oh boy, would I not want to approach that way. And while obviously my first instinct might be to go up and secure my Elytra, I actually prefer raiding my way up through the End City while I still have the advantage of having a full suit of armor and can protect myself better against shulkers. One thing that might have been prudent to bring with me actually would be some iron so that I could craft another shield, because a shield is going to be vital in raiding this End City and defending ourselves against those shulker bullets, because a lot of the time you'll find yourself attacked by shulkers. They do a fair amount of damage because they are of course kind of an end game mob, and so you find yourself taking a lot of damage if you don't have any means to protect yourself. Go in with a shield. You can block shulker projectiles, means you avoid the levitation effect, and also means you don't take as much damage. So here we are, we have reached the city at the end of the game, and we're going to take out the sentries on either side of the door. There we go, block those bullets like so. A couple of them might disappear behind us as one of the shulkers teleports away. And importantly, over there in the distance, I can also see an end portal gateway. That gateway is potentially our ticket out of here if we only want to raid just this one End City, but already we have our first shulker shell, and once we've got 2 of those, we can turn it into a shulker box and compact our inventory. Our friend from the door seems to have gone outside out here, and once he opens up, that's the best time to deal damage to them. While shulkers are closed, they take less damage and have a higher chance of teleporting, but that is 2 shulker shells right there. That is a shulker box for us. Fantastic. Nice and early, we can get some of this stuff into some easy portable storage. That's the whole reason we're here in the first place. Well, that and killing the Ender Dragon, obviously. But we'll put the honey blocks in here for our flying machines. I did bring enough with me to craft some more flying machines in case we needed to cross any more stretches of the void, but it looks like we'll be able to ignore that for now, and we've got our ender chest loaded up with fireworks, of course. I'm going to keep some of the rest of this stuff on me. Who knows, we might end up needing the Totem of Undying here to save ourselves from a nasty fall. And I don't have any ender pearls yet because I have not been bothered to fight any endermen. I have decided to avoid that for the moment, although there are some safer ways you can do that. Now, one thing you should know about these towers, and one thing that I think is overlooked by a lot of players, is the fact that these staircases are kind of difficult to traverse, especially when there are blocks above your head. You can end up falling down some of these open corners of the staircase. So what I tend to do is bring blocks or slabs with me, and you can actually just create a staircase nice and easily out of these. And making a spiral staircase here, maybe putting a block up somewhere around halfway, makes these a lot safer to travel up or fall down. So use that to your advantage as you enter this area here. And this main tower can often be filled with a lot of shulkers, so you'll need to have a shield around, although I kind of prefer to let a couple of them hit me and allow them to carry me up the tower. Naturally, we want to hit as many of these shulkers as we can with looting, because looting is going to mean that we get a higher chance of obtaining shulker shells from them, but some servers that you are used to watching might have a data pack on which increases the amount of shells shulkers will drop. In this case, I'm playing without data packs in this world, so the maximum amount of shells I'm guaranteed to get from a single shulker is just the one shell. So I'm just going to fight my way up to the top of this tower, where if I tuck myself into a corner over here, that shulker ended up getting hit by another one and teleporting away, I can potentially barricade myself in and stay out of range of some of the shulkers. You can also shoot the bullets down or potentially destroy them with a sword if you need to, but I find that blocking or letting them destroy themselves on blocks is really the best way forward. Now here's one thing to be aware of now that we are in Minecraft 1.17, and that's that any shulker hitting another shulker or even hitting itself with one of those bullets has the potential to clone itself and duplicate another shulker. So potentially, if the shulkers end up fighting like this, we can find ourselves in the middle of a kind of unexpected shulker farm. And so as you hear all of the shulkers firing at each other from the roofs and walls of these buildings, you're actually potentially going to find that a couple of them are reproducing up here, and that the shulker population is a little higher than you expected. And we're getting to the first point where we might need to use a bucket of water here because the levitation effect is wearing off. I have a couple of shulker bullets chasing me, and we might need to MLG water bucket this. So let's see if we can drop down there. Oh, we didn't make it. I didn't actually manage that in the end. Well, there's an easy way to do that, which I will show you a little bit later on. For now, I'm just going to take care of the rest of these shulkers, and then we're going to loot the chests inside of the central part of this end city. One last attempt at taking on this shulker right here, and there we go. We took him down. That should be most of them taken care of. We do have one straggler left on underneath here, and it sounds like there is one more. I don't see it right now, so it may be concealed tucked away on a wall somewhere on the outside of this section here, but it looks like the city has generated kind of weirdly. Yeah, it's down there on the outside of the tower. All right, we've taken out that one as well. There will be a couple of others. They're usually populating some of these upper areas of the tower, but there we go. Nice and easy. Not too much full damage. We can return to the inside of this city and check out the loot. And right here we have a pretty decent sword, actually. Wow, Smite 5 in looting. We're going to keep that in case we want to make a gold farm a bit later. The rest of the loot here is not super spectacular. We have a little bit more gold and a Silk Touch pickaxe. That's actually really nice. I'm going to bring that with us, of course. I'm going to tuck that in the shulker box, and as you can see, really haven't got that many other shulker shells yet, although I do need to return to the base of this tower and see if we missed any that were dropped from all of the shulkers that were down here. I think riding a water stream down should do the trick. Yep, looks like we've got at least one more shell there. I'm not seeing too many others around, although here is our lift. This is going to take us back up to the rest of the tower, and we can always use the water bucket to climb a little bit further if we need to. Yep, there they are. There's a couple that happen to teleport right out to the outside of this tower, and there are a couple more shells for us. Oh, that glimpse of the void there was a little bit frightening. But once again, just going to use the water bucket to ascend this part of the tower, grab ourselves that extra shulker shell, and yeah, that's looking a little bit better in terms of supplies for shulker boxes. So let's take a quick look around at where exactly we are in relation to that end city ship. It looks like it's actually back in this direction. I don't see it from here, so I think it's probably out that way. So we're going to traverse around the side of this tower here. We're going to end up on the opposite side over there. And once we dealt with the shulkers in here, we should hopefully be able to get over to where the ship is. Now, where did that guy teleport off to? I think he's just hanging out up here. We'll levitate up to meet him. There we go. We got one more shell out of that, or I do need to make sure I keep my water source on me. But I think from the top here, hopefully we should be able to look out and see where the ship was. I think it's up there somewhere. Nope, I got a little bit turned around. Turns out the ship is out over that way. And so I think we're going to go over there first because, like I said, my shield is getting a little bit low on durability, and I'm hoping that the extra chests in there might have some iron that we can use to craft another shield. So we're going to hop on down here. Speaking of shields, the best way to do the MLG water bucket trick where you land perfectly in a water source is to take anything out of your offhand that you are holding, step off and hold down the button. There you go. So if you hold down the right click button as you're falling, then you should place it on the block before you end up landing. And I'm not certain if that works from other heights, but for smaller drops like this, it's nice and easy to do. So let's provoke this guy into attacking us real quick so we can take care of him, block that shulker bullet, and we get levitated on the way in. Luckily, if you get levitated in an area where there are blocks nearby, you can use the water to push yourself back down, which is a handy trick for escaping levitation if you're in close quarters like this. And as luck would have it, this room actually has a couple of loot chests in, or it has one loot chest and an ender chest, so I might actually take this ender chest with me so we have a backup, just in case I destroy the other one, and I'm hoping that this chest over here, once we get to open it, might have some iron in there so we can craft another shield, because mine has just broken. Oh, it doesn't, but it has some protection 4 boots and some diamond horse armor. I guess we'll take that along with the shulker shells. This is looking like a decent haul so far, but we are now potentially a little bit stuck for defensive capabilities, which means it is high time that we get over to that ship, get hold of the Elytra, and make ourselves a little bit more maneuverable to make up for our lack of defense. Keeping an eye on this shulker at the top of the tower, but hopefully we should be able to escape before he sees me, and nope, he got me anyway. But once again, we can use that water trick to descend and make sure we don't end up getting levitated up too high by that levitation effect. Now, we should be in the clear. That shulker can't really see us from where he is, and the ship is actually within ender pearl throwing distance if I had an ender pearl. Unfortunately, I do not, but that should be okay because I brought enough blocks that we can bridge out over there. And once again, I'm going to be using slabs for this, just to expand the amount of material that we have. And once we get within a certain range of the ship, those shulkers are potentially going to hit us with levitation, and that should be close enough that we can levitate our way over to the ship on the other side. You can see some of the water that I just tipped out disappearing into the void below. And if you are not confident in your levitation, but you are confident in your bow skills, you might want to try shooting down some of these shulker bullets. But of course, if you are careful, you can kind of ride the shulker bullets over to the ship, place down a bucket of water there so that we can counteract the levitation effect, and we are in the city. Not only that, but the water will prevent any endermen in here from messing with you too much. And there, at last, is our shulker guarding our first set of Elytra here in the hardcore survival guide. A couple more hits, and the shulker is down. We can claim our Elytra, and the sky's the limit. Unfortunately, these chests did not have any iron either, but they did have some very good diamond equipment, a couple of loose diamonds, and some gold ingots. And honestly, a shield would not be too much good against the dragon anyway, so we're not going to worry too much about that for our return to the center of the end for the dragon fight. We are going to worry about this shulker down here, however, who seems to have teleported in from somewhere, or maybe even reproduced off some of the shulkers in the ship. So I'm just going to take out the rest of the shulkers on the ship so I can give myself a little bit of room to maneuver here. We have one guy up here who just needs a couple of well-placed arrows to deal with him, and then we can counteract the levitation effect here by sticking to the mast a little bit and catching ourselves on the ladder on the way back down. Fantastic. A couple more shulker shells scored, and before we do anything silly like jump off this ship, we are, of course, going to make sure that we are wearing the Elytra. Not only that, but in the last episode, I did, of course, bring a couple of supplies with me in the ender chest. So here we have an anvil, we have a book with Unbreaking 2 and Mending, and we can apply that book to the Elytra so we can lose as little durability as possible if we want to continue making our way around the end and raiding a few more end cities before we leave. I've taken the chests from the city. I'm going to grab myself another shulker box, and we're going to use that to store all of the fireworks in. I might also tuck some of the totems of Undying in here as well so that we can keep hold of those, but I think we will leave ourselves at least 2 stacks of fireworks for the dragon fight. And this other shulker box here contains all of the gear and stuff that we've gotten from the end city so far. I'm going to put the anvil in there as well. Now we've got a little bit more room in our ender chest. I can put some of this stuff away, and I think we are going to continue raiding some of this tower section of the city, because potentially, like I said, we could find some iron that is going to be helpful in crafting another shield, which I might need in case I need to fend off any endermen. One last thing before we leave the ship, of course, I could not forget the fact that there is a dragon head out here on the very end of the ship, so we're going to put a couple of planks underneath that, jump up on top of the dragon head, break it like so, and we have ourselves a dragon head at last. And it feels very weird having Elytra in this series now, but honestly, I find Elytra one of the coolest things to have in Minecraft in terms of player safety. You don't need to worry too much about taking fall damage when you can just drift downwards. Of course, their use for transport around the Minecraft world cannot be overstated, but it is still so nice to be able to jump off of a really tall area like this and be guaranteed that you're going to be okay if you hit the ground, provided that you slow down a little bit before you do. And our first flight is going to be over to one of these towers where hopefully inside some of these compartments we should find some loot. I'm going to break out a few blocks of the city here, and if we look in through the wall, this right here is where the chest is. So if I stand here, I can open up that chest, we can grab the contents of it, and then I can replace the blocks of the wall like I was never there. We could, of course, also grab a few end rods while we're here, in case we want some of those. We do occasionally run into shulkers on the outside here as well, and we seem to have aggroed a few of the others, but that's no problem. We can get out here over the roof of this city. As soon as we start to drop, I can press the space bar, we will activate our wings, and we can glide to safety. Now, I made a big deal of getting the ender chest from this room, but I never actually picked it up, so I'm going to pick it up right now. We could always scavenge a couple of others from this city, because there are clearly one or two more towers like this. If you want to look for loot in an end city, the towers you want to look for are the ones that have 3 layers to them like that. And oh, I found another shulker, it looks like. Let's fly around again so we can get a slightly better vantage point. Yeah, you'll notice that there are sections with 3 layers like that one and this one, and there are sections with 2 layers like that one. That tower there will not have any loot in, while all of the ones with 3 layers like this should do. We're just going to casually tuck ourselves in here, open up this wall, see what's in here. Oh, a couple of emeralds. Okay, probably going to leave a few of these blocks behind, or maybe break out the ender chest and use one of our shulker boxes to tuck some of this stuff away. We got an efficiency 5 pickaxe right there, and an iron pickaxe with Curse of Vanishing. That can go straight into the void, although obviously Curse of Vanishing doesn't matter much in hardcore, because if you die with it on you, you're gonna die anyway. I don't think it vanishes if you end up using a Totem of Undying. I don't think it works that way. But I might come back to this city and raid it for the rest of the shulkers when the shulkers are our priority. For now, though, I am more concerned with... Oh, I think I probably now have enough iron gear that if I had a furnace on me, I might be able to smelt everything down and make a single iron ingot. But as I was going to say, our priority now can be returning to the central island of the End and fighting the Ender Dragon. And it looks like we're not going to find any more loot in this city, unfortunately. So I am wondering if it's worth traveling a little bit further out into the End to find ourselves a city with enough loot that I will get a single iron ingot, because I honestly rather fancy my chances a little better if I have a shield and can defend myself against Endermen. So what we're going to do is employ a tactic that I like to use when searching for End cities, and typically you'll find that even though they are spaced fairly far apart, End cities actually generate on a kind of grid in the world. So if we fly out further in this direction, sticking to a single axis, in this case we are just going to head east, and head east in a fairly straightforward way. We can also open out to a third-person view if we want to, and maybe look a little bit from side to side as we fly. Once you have Elytra, it is fairly easy to track down another End city. This is not a guaranteed method of finding End cities, but typically speaking, when these cities generate, they do generate in a loose sort of grid, and you can find them just by traveling directly north, south, east, or west from a city you've already discovered. Of course, that doesn't guarantee that it will be the closest End city, and neither does it guarantee that it will be a particularly big one. This city here only has 1 loot tower in it, and if I come down for a landing here, we will see if this... Oh, still doesn't have any iron in it. Unfortunate. Well, it looks like we're not going to be doing the dragon fight on my preferred terms, but I think we should still have a decent chance of it. So I'm going to probably leave this End city behind once I've gathered some of the rest of this loot here. We're going to make our way back to the last place I was able to encounter an End return gateway, and from there, I think we will return to the central island and fight the dragon. There we go, there is our return gateway, and it's actually going to be fairly easy to get into this one. We can use a couple of different methods to enter this portal without even having to fight any of the local Endermen. We could, of course, fight a couple of the Endermen to repair some of my equipment. I could do with a little bit of repair on the Elytra, but honestly, I don't really feel like risking it, and I think we'll be able to take on the dragon without that. So I'm going to craft a little bit more oak wood so we can make a trapdoor, and we're going to use the trapdoor crawling method to get through the End gateway portal without having to worry about getting hold of an ender pearl. All we need to do is pillar up to this, place 1 block there, place a trapdoor above there, and open that onto ourselves, and we can crawl through to this portal block. What that's going to do is take us back to the obsidian platform where we first spawned into the end and where the dragon awaits us. And of course, I can put my Totem of Undying in my offhand since I don't have a shield, just in case something goes horribly wrong out there. It's time to fight the dragon, folks. We're back. Did you miss us? I didn't think so. Let's take out some of the end crystals first, and hopefully flying around here, it's going to make this section of the fight just a little bit faster. We want to take out these crystals as quickly as possible since the dragon can regenerate using them. We also want to make sure that we are not too close to the crystals when they explode, because they are one of the most violent explosions in the entire game, similar in force to a charged creeper. These towers with the cages around them, there we go, we can attempt to shoot through the corners, allowing us to dispose of those end crystals without having to worry about getting too close to them or breaking out any of the bars. And now we get free reign of the end to fly around with our Elytra or shoot from the ground and fight the dragon. Now, of course, much has been made about fighting the dragon with explosives and beds and so forth, and that is the way that speedrunners do it. But personally, I'm not super confident with that, and I would rather not attempt that in a hardcore world where the stakes are so much higher, especially a world that I put this much time and energy into right now. But typically the way you would do that is to place an obsidian block near the portal in the center, wait for the dragon to perch like this, and explode a couple of beds underneath it as it was circling down. I will occasionally open my inventory to check the durability on my Elytra as I fly around here, because I would really not appreciate that running out in mid-air, but most of the time we can just fly around, shoot a couple of arrows into the dragon as we fly past, and Infinity and Flame on the bow does make it a little bit easier to do, because we don't run out of arrows and it's much easier to see where the arrows are going. Of course, once the dragon goes down to nest on its perch down there, it is invulnerable to arrows, and it'll only stay there for a very short period of time. So I find that the best way of doing this is really to take it on in the air when you have Elytra, and that's part of the reason I wanted to do the fight this way in the first place. I find it so much easier fighting the dragon when you can also fly around, and occasionally you'll need it to get away from Enderman as well. Because yeah, an Enderman on the ground did just end up seeing me, so he might be a little bit mad, and being able to fly away from him being a little bit mad is going to be better for me. Let's see if he's still... Yep, no, he's still following me. Okay. So the dragon is on about 1/3 health right now, coming down to about 1/4. The Enderman is still mad at me, but it looks like it will have other problems in just a second. Flying around during this fight also puts you out of range of any dragon's breath attacks, although the dragon can still charge you like it did just then, which is why it's a good idea to have decent armor and stay well out of the dragon's reach. But it looks like we're about to take down the dragon, and what I usually like to do for this is to go into no hard mode, into first person, and take a look at the dragon as it dies. And then immediately fly away again, because yes, the Endermen are still a little bit mad at me. But there we go. We have freed the end. The dragon is defeated, and down here we have a couple of Endermen. Well, I have just the thing for them. We're going to pour down a bucket of water. That's another great reason to bring water to the end, is that the Endermen are not super fond of it. They'll take damage when they walk into it, and you'll be able to protect yourself nice and easily from their attacks if you don't have a shield on you. And if they stand still for long enough, with a couple of well-timed hits, we might even be able to get hold of a couple of ender pearls for our trouble. Yeah, this guy right here is going to be a problem. There we go, one Enderman down. We just got to wait for the other guy to round the corner, and he is struggling with this water. Endermen have a lot of health, so he's taking a little while to die by water damage. Let's see if we can help that along. There we go. We are good. Thank goodness for that, because we have a lot of XP to claim in the center here. This should be about 60 levels worth of XP, and that will go to repairing my Elytra, some of the tools that might have mending. Yeah, we can mend the axe here a little bit as well. Oh, look at this. Fantastic. 65 levels. Not quite the Minecrafty number, but close enough. And of course, our prize in the center here, we're going to tap the Ender Dragon egg once. It's going to teleport somewhere nearby. We can dig underneath it 2 blocks, place a torch, and let it fall onto the torch where it breaks, just like a block of gravel does, or any other block that is affected by gravity the way the egg is. We have got it. We have completed the next generation advancement. At the end is now ours. So folks, thank you for coming on this journey with me. We're going to return to the overworld. Going to skip the end poem because I think that's that's really something you should read after having completed the game yourself. And this, by the way, for people asking in the comments of the previous video, is why I decided to set my spawn here, because I didn't want to break my bed somewhere else, having set my spawn out in the wilderness, and then respawn at the spawn point of this world. Because if you remember, the spawn point of this world was over there in the Taiga Forest. If it was nighttime when we returned to the overworld, we would be in the middle of a forest with no light, no bed, nothing to skip the night, and potentially a little bit of a hard time getting anywhere. Although now we have Elytra, we can use these in our world wherever we want to and fly around. And gosh, I have missed the freedom of this. It's going to be really strange flying around the world, but it's going to be really nice at the same time, having this amount of flexibility in what we can do, where we can go, and how quickly we can get there. Thankfully, it is now the middle of the day, and so we can get into the house and do a little bit of busy work, putting away all of our gear from the end, unpacking all of the stuff that we brought home with us, and honestly, I think the first thing I'm going to do is make another shield. There we go. Feels much better having a shield on my left arm, weirdly, but thankfully we had the Totem of Undying there as backup. And I figured while we put some of this stuff away, I did want to talk a little bit about why I ended up going out to the end city instead of just straight up fighting the dragon the traditional way. Because some people got curious about that, and honestly, I'm quite happy to explain. First of all, I think the dragon fight is honestly a little bit boring now. It's the kind of thing that you just want to get over and done with, rather than it really feeling like an epic adventure anymore. And I do hope that in future, the dragon fight either ends up getting revised in some way, or that the dragon's AI is restored to what it used to be, because honestly I find the Ender Dragon used to be a little bit more dangerous, and that's not just like nostalgia talking. I honestly think the dragon used to behave a little bit differently. It actually used to swoop down on you while you were just standing around. There is an entry on the Minecraft wiki about this that is now kind of outdated, because the dragon no longer stoops and dives on the player. Instead, it just flies around in circles, breathing on you occasionally, and I honestly think it makes the fight a little bit easier and a little bit more boring that the dragon doesn't really do that anymore. But really what I was saying the rest of the time holds true as well. I wanted to go out there, get some Elytra, and come back to fight the dragon, because honestly, it is a little bit safer that way. Despite how treacherous it appeared crossing the void using that honey block flying machine, we were actually perfectly safe, and there are ways we could have built that flying machine to be even safer, but I wanted to do the bare minimum for a bit of dramatic effect. But the whole reason I wanted to get Elytra was because I find the Ender Dragon fight safer that way. There is less chance of you getting tossed up into the air and having to use a water bucket to break your fall, and frankly, I didn't really feel like dying, because let me explain something to you that I've come to realize over the last little while of playing Minecraft, is that there is no good way to die in Minecraft. There are no good deaths in Minecraft. When you've been playing this game for a few years, you start to realize that dying is something that is really just down to you being sloppy. You get complacent, you end up missing something, and honestly, when you have a community this large, people in the community let you know. They kind of ask you why you didn't do certain things a certain way. They kind of poke fun at you for having forgotten things, and honestly, when you've played Minecraft for as long as I have, you start to realize that there is no real good excuse for you dying. There are no circumstances in this game in which it makes sense for you to have died. There are no satisfactory deaths in Minecraft. There's no point at which you go, yeah, I've done enough, and I would go so far as to say that basically every death in Minecraft is in some way avoidable. I think a boss fight like the Dragon or the Wither is honestly one of the only good reasons to die in Minecraft. It's one of the only challenges that really feels like it should be able to kill you if you're an experienced player at this point. And so if you end up dying to them, that's maybe one of the only good ways to go out. But even then, you've fought the dragon so many times at that stage, you've fought the Wither so many times that anytime you die, it was just down to a silly mistake that could have been avoided. Whenever you look at any deaths that have happened in people's long-term hardcore worlds, and obviously Filza is the big example, the most famous example recently, it always feels like an anticlimax. And even in the Filza clip where he famously dies in his 5-year hardcore world, he said, like, that's how I die. And honestly, it doesn't really feel like there are any other ways that you can die at that stage in the game. There is no satisfying way to go out in Minecraft, and with the nature of this being a sandbox game, you always feel like you will die with more stuff left to do. I was pretty confident that the dragon wasn't going to take me out, but I wanted to give myself the highest chance of survival, and for that, we had to go out to the void and cross the void and get to an end city and find Elytra, and I was prepared to go the whole way in order to make that happen for us, which means, of course, that the Hardcore Survival Guide will continue, and it's going to continue in the next episode. For now, that is going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Hardcore Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.